how you're going to bridge the gap from today to tomorrow. Because I think that's the key question now in education. And I would have never dreamed in my life, I would actually be having a conversation about how do we get a personalized AI tutor from all children aged 7 to 18 inside the school next September.
John Thomas Kelly, Director General of Olinca, a pioneering IB World School in Mexico, and the owner and president of the Education Committee at Colegio Ikigai, is a forward-thinking leader in education with a passion for reimagining the future of learning. With a deep interest in emerging technologies like AI, the Metaverse, and XR, he is committed to integrating these innovations into schools, creating a more dynamic, personalized, and globally impactful educational experience.
I think, in terms of like almost every type of activity that we ask a teacher to do in the school, if they were using artificial intelligence, it would. Teachers have now got really powerful skill sets, right? If you can help be part of this transition or be part of these conversations, I think people can build, and I think it all starts with accepting that AI, like if you manage to get an AI tutor for every child in school, you would see an.
Welcome, John. It's so
Hello.
nice to have you in this. I'm so curious about what you're doing because I always try to follow what you're doing, and there's always something new about you. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me onto the podcast.
Yes, it's lovely to have you here. So tell me about your latest passion. I'm really, really curious to know what you're up to.
Well, like you say, I'm very interested in many different areas of education. I think that the latest passion that I've come across, obviously, is artificial intelligence. I think that's
Yeah.
that's one of the things that's really capturing my attention. But it's not the only thing that's capturing my attention in that world of digital learning and digital immersive environments. I really like everything that's happening around the world of the metaverse, and for many years now, I've been sort of really involved in trying to design learning environments in there. I like virtual reality a lot. I think it has sort of less chance in schools because of its complexity, but at the same time,
Mm,
virtual reality as well is another area. I really like everything that's with augmented reality. I know everything that kind of like sits around that sort of view, that augmented reality space. I think all those bring like something new, unique into the school. But I suppose my obsession at the moment is artificial intelligence. Like everyone, everyone is talking about it. It's everywhere you go. Everybody wants to know, like, what can it do for you? So I think those are the areas that I'm most passionate about inside schools, like how we can use sort of digital transformation to improve learning experiences inside
yeah.
the school. I think that sort of the research I'm reading is certainly catching up with the idea that it can be used to improve learning. So
Mm,
that's kind of like my main passion. But at the same time, in just sort of like the day-to-day life that I've got is we're just about to enter into a whole sequence of building works here in the Olinca. Uh,
mm,
Over in Colegio Ikigai, we're doing the very same thing. We're about to do some building work inside the school. We're closing down the end of the year, so we've got all the graduations and all of the final parts. I've just been learning about digital media. I think that's one area that, I'm starting to really start to get into much more now.
mhm,
Uh, but I would say definitely the whole thing that sits around digital learning is something that I'm interested in.
mhm. Great, great. Tell us more about um you're the head of three schools, not one, not two, three schools, right?
There's two school, yeah, three school sites and two schools. That's right. So I think pretty soon my wife is going to become the new Director General of the Olinca. But at the moment, actually, I am in that position as well. And as of January, I'm the new Director General of a school called the Olinca, which is a very prestigious school in the south of Mexico City. We're part of Cognita, which is 110 schools around the world. I believe there's a new Cognita school in Greece.
Yes.
Um, so that's right. In Mexico, the Olinka is the only Cognita school at the moment, but I'm pretty sure more schools will come and join us.
Wow.
Mexico continues to grow. It's a really nice school. It's two school sites. The one in San Angel, which is an old colonial part of the city, which is an old house, sort of designed and renovated to be, a school. And then a bit further south as well, we've got the main school site where I am today. and that's got 800 children. We've got 1,100 children in total. And then Colegio Ikigai, which is way up in the north of the city, on the other end of the city. We're doing well. We've got 113 children in Colegio Ikigai. I'd love to see that number grow this year. We've only got spaces for 113 already. We're starting to look for new school sites about how we
Wow.
can maybe move into a bigger school site. We're kinder and primary, but we would love to have secondary there and prepper as well. But that's more like of a dream. If that could keep growing. Here in Olinka, what we're doing is we're just focusing, everything ready for the new year and doing all our academic planning and just closing this year as well as we can.
Yes. And how do you manage these two roles, three roles? And how do you manage these two schools or three schools? How can you lead? Can you be a leader of so many teams at the same time?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm new in my role here, but I've been a school director now. I'm just finishing my ninth year as school director and
Mm,
24 years. So my experience is starting to help me a lot, I should imagine. Like I think, so 9 years ago when I first started this journey into school leadership, I found the management of one school very, very difficult. So I've
yes.
had to learn I've definitely learned on the job, shall we say.
Yeah.
Yeah, the master's degrees help. I've done a couple of master's degrees now in leadership and education, which has definitely, like given me like a more solid basis. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but really, it's just a lot of hard work, discipline, making sure that I'm doing my best to be on time, to be in all the critical meetings, thinking about like the quality assurance calendar, what type of activities we're doing all the time to try and improve the school, making sure we've got high quality feedback from our parents, making sure we're very targeted in our actions, more strategic actions and less looking busy. But that being said, I'm working. I am practically working 7 days a week at the moment to try and get through this initial period.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that I really enjoy doing. It's something that I really like. Development of school is is a passion of mine. I really enjoy doing this job. But it's a lot of a lot of strategic planning, a lot of making the right decisions, a lot of meeting parents, PR, making sure everybody's coming along on the journey with us and trying to understand what's happening in the market at the moment because there's like a lots of changes in the educational market after the pandemic, after COVID, and of course with like these changing demographics of students and new areas opening up in Mexico and new geographical changes. Just trying to stay on top of all of that information helps me a lot. But yeah, it's very long hours. You might be able to tell from my eyes at the moment, very long hours, but we're going in the good direction, and that's the main thing.
What's the most fun part of doing all this? Like, do you build the vision of every school? What makes you excited about being in these roles?
So I like all of the element that is about predicting where we're going to be in the future with education.
Mm,
Yeah, I think that space is really interesting. I think some of the more interesting LinkedIn accounts that I follow are the people that are making bold predictions about where we're going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years,
yeah.
and thinking about how we can bridge that today, like in schools, with our day-to-day work. And I think that's a lot of things that people miss. I mean, like take for artificial intelligence, for example. We've got a pilot program here with a company called Flint. And
Mhm.
really the vision is to give every child in the school from age 7 to 18 a personalized AI tutor. Yeah.
Mm,
And that's the vision, and that's great, but actually trying to bring it in and make it work inside classrooms is the bit that I find the most interesting, because it
mm,
never really quite works how you think it's going to work. It never actually quite lands in the way you think it's going to land. But at the same time, like if you manage to get an AI tutor for every child in school, you would see an impact in the way that they learn and the changes there. So I think that I find that really interesting is like trying to how are you going to bridge the gap from today to tomorrow? Because I think that's the key question now in education.
mhm,
If artificial intelligence continues to grow in the way that everybody seems to think it's going to grow, although it isn't a given, then it will radically change the workplace it will radically change education or is radically changing education. So I
mhm,
like starting in that point is like what will make these children successful in the future? trying to find, investigation and research that's going to support and back up my arguments for parents, for teachers, for students, and then try and make it work in reality,
Mm-hmm.
That's the tricky bit because our pedagogical structures still are pre-pandemic. We haven't really moved on from pre-pandemic type ideas.
Mm.
We're living in this post-pandemic world where there does seem to be lots and lots of new areas and opportunities that schools can move into. So I
Mm.
think that's one of the areas that I like the most, or I'm most excited about, is like how to bridge that gap and make it work in the school today.
What challenges have you faced so far, and which ones have you overcome so that other leaders might get some idea of what you're up to?
I think, working in an international school environment is a challenge, and working as the school director is always
Mm.
also really challenging. I think, the learners are different. I think, children are learning in different ways.
Mm.
I don't think we've quite really come to terms with that. I noticed that children are bringing a lot more different types of attention deficit problems and different issues with them as they come into the school, which all need attention, personalized attention. So the need to like personalized on the special educational needs of each child has seen that sort of demand has risen, has
Mm.
gone.
Mm. Mm.
I think parents are very different. I think, the Gen Z parents are often sort of labeled in there as being having a different value system or a different outlook on life. And I think they do. Millennial parents, Xennial parents, Generation X. I think there's like really marked kind of different ways that parents are now looking at what they think about education. I was reading
Mm.
about a week ago in The Guardian that Generation Z parents find reading to their children boring, for example, and they don't want to do it. They would prefer to give them the iPad and give them the computer. So I think like this kind of like the idea that we have different workers in the school, different teachers who are from different generations,
Yeah.
and different parents from different generations also adds to much of the complexity that we have now. I think
Mm.
the sort of general value proposition of traditional education, or the route that probably we followed, where we go to school, we try our best, we get good grades, we go to a good university, and ta-da, there's an amazing job waiting for us. I think that value proposition is actually looking weaker and weaker by the year.
Mm.
I don't see the same traditional route actually, leading up. But there's also this move to like more focus on, competence and skills and abilities, and that I like. I like bringing much more of that idea in. There is like changing demographics in the world today. Like in 1985 in Mexico, the average family had 5.7 children. So that's it's a really big, large family. And now the demographic in Mexico is that the average family has 1.9 children in school. So you can
What?
think like, yeah,
Wow.
it's gone from 5.7 to 1.9 since 1985 forward. So there's just like a change, like parents are opting to have one or maximum two children, not five or six children. So that's changing
That's
very
huge.
very much the dynamics. I also read the other day that there's been an increase in divorces of up to 70% now. So 7 out of 10 new weddings end up in a divorce.
Mm.
And of course, 40% less people, these are the statistics I just recently heard in Mexico. 40% less people are choosing to get married or choosing to have a
Mm.
dog or a cat instead of a
Mm.
child. So that's kind of that's changed a lot about how people a lot of things about international schools. There isn't the ready-made market that was there before. There's increasing competition. Colegio Ikigai is a great example of that. So we have new schools entering the market with new value propositions and new ideas that can revolutionize education. But at the
Mhm.
same time, there's like less children in the marketplace as well.
Mhm.
So big traditional schools, especially in Mexico City, is the market that I know best, are now struggling to get the children to come into the school. So there's definitely now a switch between like our families, our families and our that are coming into the school. I think they well understand this. So it's very much a buyer's market, like I think on average, I've just been in a digital marketing meeting. It said on average, a family will check out 19 different schools now, which I thought was kind of like an interesting statistic. Instead of just like going, I'm just going to go to the school where my mum and dad went to the school. They're checking out 19 different schools, and they're checking out for a whole range of different things because what the our buyers now are thinking about much more well-being, the emotions of my child, what's the homework policy, like the kind of like there's been like an inversion in what families are looking for in the market. So that's
Mhm.
all to say that, like international school education in Mexico and what I'm hearing from around the world is all undergoing a similar type shift at the moment. Is that it's long gone are the days where there was a queue of children down your street and you could just cherry pick the best children into your school. In fact, no,
Mm.
you have to enter into new types of terrain, new different conversations with parents that have different value systems and children that have very, very new, unique needs in order to try and solidify and cement your schools. So I think that's a big challenge for school leaders today is to just understand like how the world is changing so quickly and so differently. And trying in the middle of all that to foment good values in the children, make sure that people have good working habits, transition to maybe new different types of pedagogy. So it's an interesting time. I don't think there's any hard and fast rules at the moment in school education, apart from just having an open mind. Uh,
Yeah.
to everything that's happening at the moment and trying your best to to keep everybody happy in the school. I think there's been a definite change I see in teachers and the way that they sort of like address their work habits and what they want to do in their school environments. I see that's changing very much dramatically. So school is on shifting sands, I think, as well at the moment. So it makes our job even more important if you can just stay a little bit agile in your thinking, get new ideas from wherever you can, and always just have an open mind to the fact that we don't quite know what the future of education will be. I think that's the best stance to take, agility.
Yeah. Yeah. Agility. So you think this is a skill that every leader should have?
I
And
think, yeah, I think no, I think definitely. I think, like school leaders today need to have a lot of emotional intelligence. That whole EQ piece needs to be in there 100%. They need to be able to think critically and have this strategic thinking piece behind it as well, and sort of make some sorts of bets on what the future is going to look like. And I think that's important that we do in some way we do take a stance on certain things that are happening in schools. I think definitely we need all of our digital skills. I think digital abilities now for school leaders are just essential. Like we have to stay on top of what's happening. We have to know about it and use it in our daily life. And I think the other part is just the pedagogy, like how can we improve our schools through new, unique forms of pedagogy, which might not have existed 5 or 6 years ago. A really interesting one is evaluations with AI.
Mhm.
I just recently saw in the UK, 7,000 students have been caught cheating using AI tools in universities. So again, the emphasis is now on like, okay, how do we recalibrate our evaluation systems and assessments in order to live in the world where AI can practically do every exam known to man? And how does that affect us in day by day in the classroom? Yeah, they're all really good questions. And I think a school leader needs to have uh, like a strong desire to see transformation in schools, like to make sure that
Yeah.
we're definitely helping our students prepare for this very, very unexpected kind of events that are happening at the moment in the
Mhm.
world, but also
Mhm.
to focus on their well-being and focus on teachers' well-being and the parents' well-being. Well-being now is like it's like almost a mantra, right? People are looking for school environments that prioritize the way children feel and humans feel, rather than, rather than having like very rigid set systems. So
Do you
I
feel it's a priority for them in their daily life as well, in the family day life, or they just delegate responsibility to the school and say, this is your responsibility to take care of my kids' well-being because I can just pay for it?
Well, I think, like when the children get into that adolescent territory, I think the pressures on them, the peer pressure has dramatically increased through social media. Technology and social media,
Mm.
dramatically increased the fear and the anxiety of the children in that generation. And I'm noticing more and more extreme forms of behavior from adolescents. has always been there, but it seems to be more pronounced at the moment. Or somehow they perceive the world as also changing dramatically and very quickly, and somehow they can't see their position in in their
Mm,
future. Somehow negative or turned off to various aspects of school life. You know, there isn't the same focus on academic rigor. There isn't the same focus on academic standards.
yeah.
Because I think if you're going to learning new things is a challenge, right? It's really hard. And I think it forces you to it forces you to work hard if you're going to learn something new. And I think
Mm,
sometimes the parents have become so overprotective of the children that they're almost even rebelling against the fact that learning things is difficult. So it's just a whole different new world out there, with
mm,
lots of different new attitudes, and you have to kind of negotiate and navigate these ideas more than simply offer an A/B solution. It's much more a holistic style of leadership where you
mhm,
have to deal with a whole range of new things that previously hadn't really been in the sphere of a school.
mhm,
Social media, cyberbullying, cyber protection, all of that piece. I don't feel it was kind of like it was given over to parents, and now it's really firmly in the territory of schools, like how much screen time, what do we use screens for? All of that kind of question I see is like very, very important now to the development of the children. Social media, how do we manage our cell phones? There's lots of questions in that bucket which a school needs to give an answer to, but it very much depends on the context of where the school is.
mhm. And how do you feel that a school can check this box for the parents who are looking for well-being practices in the school? Is it like part of the new recruitment policy? Is it how to train the educators? Is it how to make the educators practice it for themselves? Which is,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that I don't think I have really a good answer for that. Because my sense is that people are getting more and more tense by the day. Like I don't see us really making a good inroads into the terms of well-being. I mean, if you go too far into well-being, parents and students tend to think that the school has no academic standards. And if you negate the academic standards and put more emphasis on, making sure that there's academic rigor in the school, you kind of lose something from the part of inclusive education that not everybody can be included in that process. So if you move more towards inclusion and you bring different types of diverse learners into your school, then parents see that as a decline in standards or a decline in the values of the school. It's really complicated. It's just like a real balancing act at the moment
Mhm.
between these things.
Mhm.
What works for one child, there is no one size fits all anymore for
As
children.
if as if we're looking for something which we don't know what it is. Like I'm
It's
looking for
exactly
well-being,
that.
but I don't
Yeah.
know what it means because the moment they give me more well-being, I reject it because I say I'm into this other direction of the academic path.
That's right. Yeah. It's as if schools, when they came back from the pandemic, didn't manage to make a jump into another form of pedagogy or another form of thinking. It's as if
Mm.
we've been stuck in the past somehow, and everyone else has seemed to have evolved and moved on, and schools are just
Schools
not
again,
changing in the way
we're
that
back again.
yeah, our teachers and students want them to change.
Mm.
Um, it's as if we're so married or wedded to this idea that all school does is prepare you for university, right? And all
Mhm.
university does is prepare you for a job. And then you get this job and you keep, I think it's back to that idea that value proposition is looking weaker and weaker all the time. I don't know. These are just my ideas. I'm sure there are other ideas out there as well. I'm
Mm.
sure that, when you get a school which is really, really married to its population know its value proposition and why it's there and why those go to the school, then I'm sure that, it's not the full panorama, the full picture of the world's educational market.
Mm.
I'm sure universities will continue to exist and do very, very well over the next 10, 15 years. It's just that there just seems to be this sort of element in the air that the curriculum that we develop doesn't serve the learner, the learner isn't really being assessed or evaluated correctly anymore. And
Mhm.
all of that now is kind of in this is up in the air because of artificial intelligence. Seems like
Yeah,
it's a difficult time for
yeah,
all.
yeah. And although we have all these statistics that university students are copying from AI to do their exams, we are still trying to go back to the this is the regular, this is how we do exams. We don't need to change. We don't have to change. We don't want to change. Just go back to that. Remove AI from the equation. Although it's just happening, right?
That's right. Yeah, there's like a backlash against AI. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, go
yeah.
back to papers and
Too much
pen,
resistance.
writing
Too
things
much resistance.
down. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost like the Luddites. Like it's okay. We're going to rebel against the machines by only using natural forms of transportation or natural ways of doing things. I think there is that pendulum is swinging in education at the moment because if AI continues to improve in its quality and its power and quantum computing comes in and gives it a whole new window to even get stronger and better. Like the only logical conclusion, and I just read this from many commentators, including Geoffrey Hinton, who was the godfather of AI and won the Nobel Prize, is that artificial general intelligence is very close to being produced, which is an intelligence that's much more capable, equal or capable to human intelligence.
Mm,
If it continues to go down that line, there's something called, artificial superintelligence, which is when a computer is magnitudely more intelligent than us. Jeffrey Hinton also says that, the consciousness of computers is coming, if not already here. So these like very transcendental, very, deep questions that the
uh,
technology is posing of schools these days.
yeah.
And I think you see some parents that are sort of clinging on to the mentality that if they put the head in the sand and keep going on that route, everything's going to be okay because all the jobs are going to be there, etc., etc. But you've got some very other disruptive people in society saying, hey, jobs are going to change really significantly over the next 5 years to 2030 and beyond, depending on what technology does in that window afterwards, Longevity, that's another area I'm really watching at the moment, is like how long people are going to live.
Mm,
People are sort of like, again, commentators are now saying that people are going to live much longer in life, but the demographics of the population are falling, that they're having people, a bit less children being born. So I think
mm,
it's certainly an interesting time to be in education, and I think that's why there's so many great opportunities at the moment. Yeah,
yeah.
to
Many
so many
voices.
great
Many voices. Here.
opportunities. Yeah,
Yeah.
to learn more about where education is going to go in the future.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So tell me more about how you are using AI right now. Is it to build programs, lesson plans, or to do marketing to promote the schools?
It's interesting. I'm using it in my personal life a lot. And
Mm,
so I jumped around a few of the large language models at the moment. I'm just using Gemini at the moment. And it mostly caught my attention because of the new platform, which is VO3, which generates
mm,
videos, like
videos.
absolutely high quality videos. But I think Gemini really and Google are starting to push that into a territory that I think is useful. It connects into all the other tools of G Suite. It's got a thing there called deep research, which I really like in Gemini, and it can really do really good pieces of investigation. I think it's got some limits because it's a platform that's based on probability. You do have to check all of the information that's there. But I use it now almost for everything. I almost use every type of thinking or every type of activity I have in the school. I find a way that I can at least check or define what's happening, see what Gemini thinks about it before
Mm-hmm,
I actually go. And I think it always enhances or improves the work that I'm doing. So in terms
mm-hmm,
of strategic planning, in terms of leadership, in terms of school improvement reviews, in terms of like all the information that I've got. So another thing I use there is Google Notebook LM, which is a really great tool for having so much information in one place and one spot. Um,
mm,
yeah, I use it almost for absolutely every task that I've got, or just at least to check, what does What does the system think? What's its opinion, you know?
Mhm.
So I much would like using it as a critical friend almost.
Yeah, yeah. Is your team keeping up with that?
No, I would say not. I would say not. I don't see teachers keeping up with it, and I don't see students keeping up with it. I think students are in their own zone. They're going to use it to game the system, because they realize it's a system. They've realized education is needs to be gamed. And I don't see teachers keeping up with it. I don't see parents keeping up with it. Yeah, I don't see that happening. I see one or two groups of people shooting ahead really quickly and everybody
Mm,
else sort of ignoring that it's even happening. So,
mm, mm. So do you think this is going to cause problems in the future, or um, make it easier for some people to just stand out? The fact that some people are not keeping up, what do you think is going to, how is this going to roll out in the future?
oh, I don't know. That's a really good question. There's definitely going to become a bigger gap, right, between the students and the teachers and the school leaders and anyone in society basically who's paying attention and using it. It does
Mm,
make you more productive and more efficient. It does give you new ideas. It really does enhance the intelligence that you've already got can be enhanced with artificial intelligence. And for that group who continue to grow as it continues to accelerate, there's going to be huge benefits for that group. And for the group that doesn't engage or doesn't see any benefit in it or doesn't work with it or just simply says, no, I just disagree with the very fact that it exists, they're going
mm,
to fall behind really, really quickly.
yeah,
So you will get this disparity between two.
yeah.
I think, in terms of like almost every type of activity that we ask a teacher to do in the school, if they were using artificial intelligence, it would improve their work. And it would
Mm,
make their work quicker and it would reduce the time taken to do that work.
mhm,
But at the same time, I see this in various sectors, is teachers saying or having the opinion that if I allow artificial intelligence to come into my classroom, it will take my job in the future.
mm,
I don't think it's quite as binary as the teachers make out. I think you can use a
yeah.
lot of the elements of artificial intelligence to make you much more creative and better in your job and offer new types of ways of thinking. The areas that I'm looking at the moment are the AI no code AI agents, which I think is really,
Mm,
really interesting, where you can just basically you talk to an interface and it creates websites and programs and does all the coding for you. In fact, in the school, we're about to have a hackathon, our first hackathon in the history. And basically, for that hackathon, I'm going to use AI no coding agents so the children can just in a simple language talk to the devices and they can create pretty powerful pieces of software. The other area I think is interesting is the AI agent area where people are going into. I think in marketing, I think some of the generative AI tools like VO3 are just so amazing now that, why would you not use them, I think they could be very, very effectively used in schools. I actually genuinely think that in the future, we will always have adult humans looking after children humans, right? I think that will always be the case.
yeah,
I think we'll never see
agree.
anything different other than adult humans looking after children humans. But at the same time, I think more and more as it maybe gets more advanced, we can start to really give over parts of the learning experience,
Mhm,
having an
mhm,
AI tutor that really knew you and was personalized and in tune with your needs and had a memorization and knew everything about your profile and was safe and had the rail, that kind of tool could drastically, radically improve education. And actually, that's one of the things that maybe actually close the gap across the world, right?
mhm, mhm, mhm,
So I think it's a time where nothing seems off the table. Like
mm,
the craziest idea seems to actually be right in the center of the table now. And I would have never dreamed in my life I would actually be having a conversation about how do we get a personalized AI tutor from all children from age 7 to 18 inside the school next September. And that's the conversation, It's like,
crazy.
how do we do that? And so it's going to be a huge challenge, but there could be massive benefits to it as well. So it's a very interesting time to be an educator,
Mm,
and I like the fact that like now you can start to come up with more esoteric ideas for schools. It's like it's broad. Like the ideas spectrum of ideas that could work in a school has definitely got wider. And I think, people who are teachers teachers have now got really powerful skill sets, right? If you can help be part of this transition or be part of these conversations, I think people can build different types of careers. There'll be different types of jobs to be had in schools and school groups. And I think it all starts with accepting that AI is here and it can be a great tool for us.
Yeah, great. And if uh, we like manage to build these AI tutors, individual tutors for every student, what do you think the role, what do you think the educators should be focusing on when they are in class in the future, in the next 1 year or 2 years, not distant future?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I still many elements of traditional pedagogy would still apply. Like of what we're going to do with children inside schools. But of course, I think anything that goes into lines of investigation, inquiry, building profiles, allowing children to work on project-based learning or phenomenon-based learning, or anything that allows them more scope to move outside of just like the narrow rigidity of a curriculum, I think is a great thing for students. And I think a tutor can lead you down that path, right? I
Mm.
think if you're thinking about digital collaboration, how you might bring groups of learners together inside immersive learning environments, I could well see very quickly we could be in a situation where in the 110 schools in Cognita, we can start to like set up international classrooms where the students can interact in real time with the other children inside the classrooms, work on real world projects that actually have an impact in the world. And they can learn a whole range of stuff and develops competencies and skills that weren't there before in the environment. So I think those things will change. But I think there will always be a need for children to come together with their friends and their peers to socialize. And I think one of the things we learned in the pandemic. And inside what we would call like a modern day classroom is I think there needs to be more chance for focusing on those critical thinking exercises, making sure children have a voice and opinion, that sort of like engaging in all the richness of being in school. I love to see good arts programs and sports programs and music programs. I think all of those things just add to children's development. And inside classrooms, there's going to be a lot of discussion and a lot of debate and a lot of talking about what did my AI tutor lead me to the conclusion. I think assessment will ultimately have to change evaluations and assessment. I think high stakes testing will probably end in some way. But of course, will always be principles of good evaluation inside. How do you evaluate a child's learning will always be there in some
Mhm.
form. What I'll
Mhm.
see is like we'll just see the end of testing children. So at the end of like different of summative levels, I think that will probably change because the AI could probably tell you a lot about the child anyway. So you're changing evaluation practices will
Yeah.
probably be part of it. And that'll be good to see because that's more inclusive, right? Like it's not that is one of the bottlenecks that traditional education has is like, a test isn't for everyone.
Yes, that would be a dream, real dream, if it happens, if tests are removed and assessment changes.
I
Awesome.
think I think that when I talk to all sort of teachers, informally or formally, mostly informally, that's the one thing that they always say about education is like I wish I could change that one element about it.
That
Is
one
that
element,
that
exactly.
one element, if you could just somehow change that one element, it would transform education. And that's why I found in Colegio Ikigai, actually, because the Finnish model has that element to it of no standardized testing. It has evaluation, but no other standardized testing. And for children, when you take away the obligation to learn to pass a test, to get a grade, to go on your final report, to send home to your mum and dad, so mum and dad will be pleased or not pleased, you take that away and you sort of like involve the community to sort of think about other ways of evaluating children, then this has been the benefit for those children is that they now feel as if they can follow their passions and their investigations and their curiosity, and it's led them down very, very different paths. Hasn't been standardized at all. It's been quite a different type journey for those learners, like a personal learning journey that they go down. But I think that's definitely something we can add to traditional education, right? It's not a one size fits all experience anymore. The parents know it, and Gen Z parents definitely know it. And our younger learners in the school like don't conform to that idea anymore. That like there is just one route for me in life. That being said, though, the new types of professions that are coming in, we need to do a better job of telling children that they can do these different jobs in life because I still think there's a over reliance on mum and dad being you either be a doctor, a lawyer, a medic, uh, work in finance, things like that. And I think there's so many other different things that children can do today to earn their money. But at the same time, I think like there is cracks are beginning to emerge in the value proposition of traditional education.
Yeah, yeah, true, true. Okay, so much to talk about regarding AI and managing a school. And if we have this conversation in the next 6 months, it's going to be a totally different conversation, I'm sure about that, because there are so many changes instantly. So for the last part of this podcast, we play a game. I play a game with my guests. So I want you to pick one of the books, and I will explain how we play the game.
What about atomic habits?
Okay. And give me a page. Where is it?
Um, Page 65. No,
65.
no, no, 45. I've just turned 45. Page
40,
45.
45. Okay. All right. And give me a line.
10.
10. All right. So I'm going to read line 10 and the context around it, and we will discuss
Okay.
how this resonates with personal life or professional life. So, after you stumble upon an unexpected reward, you alter your strategy for next time. Your brain immediately begins to catalog the events that preceded the reward. Wait a minute, that felt good. What did you do? What did I do right before that?
Unexpected rewards in life. That's
So
a very good topic, yeah. I know that book.
unexpected.
I really like that book as well.
Yeah. How does this resonate with whatever you're doing? Unexpected rewards.
So there's one of the books I love. I've been following this author for many years, a guy called Ray Dalio. Don't know if you've ever heard of him, yeah? And he's got a book. It's a really great book. It's called Principles. And it came out, I don't know, maybe about 5 years ago, something like that. And just as I was starting Colegio Ikigai, I read this book. And the story of Ray Dalio is that he is really rich and successful in America. He takes other people's money and makes more money for them. But the
Mm,
principles behind his company were really, really interesting. His company is called Bridgewater Consultancy or something like that. Anyway, it's made a lot of money, right? It's one of the most overperforming companies in the world. But at one point, he managed to lose in fact, twice, he's lost all of his money and he started again.
mm,
And he
mm,
talks about that personal journey of like when the most surprising and interesting gifts in life that he's learned about life is not when you're on the up, is when you're on the downward spiral. And he said that life sort of like moves in this sort of direction where you do really, really well, you learn lots of things, and then at some point you sort of dip down. You know? And when you're at the lowest point there, that's when life is going to give you the deepest meaning or the biggest gifts or the biggest learning. Yeah. And then it goes that will shoot you back up again, but it will happen to you over and over again in life that you will dip down, learn something new, and then shoot back up again. Yeah. And that seems to be true for like my experience of life is like it seems that like I learn the most about my life when I'm the most miserable. But I learn about most of my life when I'm most under pressure, when I most need to move forward, when I most need to drive forward. That that's where I get the richer ideas from. So I think Atomic Habits is a great book. I really like Atomic Habits because these shortcuts can always happen. So I think in my experience of life and my experience of education is that you learn most about yourself when your back's against the wall, like when you need to fight your way out, fight your corner and get out there and make a change.
Is this something our students are missing? They haven't been there ever?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think there's a huge thing about resilience and grit now in schools. We seem to have the information now. We've got the books, and we've got the ideas there. But our parents are really, really overprotective of students these days. They don't want failure in their sort of vocabulary, and I think that's a big issue and a big problem, big error.
So they just predict all the rewards and everything is expected and predictable and we know what's coming. I'm going to take this exam and this is going to be the result and this is going to be what comes after. And when something seems to be going down, somebody is always there to save them. So they never see what's down there. They never access this part.
That's right. Learning to fail is really important, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's Google's catchphrase, right? Fail faster. Because if you're failing faster, getting quicker, you're getting closer to the solution. And I do see children with not with like with an inability to fail and pick themselves up again, Somehow
Mm.
we are starting to sugarcoat them, and it's an often an overused phrase, I think, is that they're made of cotton wool or things like that. But I
Mm.
do see that children do lack some kind of mental resilience in the
Mm.
in the wake of different things that happen in their lives. And I think there's like new challenges for them there, but I think that's an area that I think that does concern me actually in schools.
Mhm.
You can't tell children that they failed anymore. Like there seems to be like an overwhelming idea that children will always pass and will always succeed. Yeah. Actually, it's what seems to be more accurate from my experience of life is that when you fail is where you get the good feedback. That's where you really look inwards and find the character and resilience to move forward again. And I think parents and families don't always see that now in the modern world.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Their life is always now our generation Z live through these Instagram accounts, and the world is perfect all the time, and the world is
Yeah.
like far from perfect. Yeah.
Mm.
They want to promote an image of perfection, which is actually very detrimental to how their children actually will learn and develop in the world.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Thank you so much for this conversation, John. Thank you for accepting the invitation to be here with me today. It's been a
You're
pleasure.
welcome, man. Yeah, I know you're coming to Mexico very soon, so it'll be a pleasure to see you. Me, I'll show you the schools. I'll show you what we're up to. Yeah,
Yeah, I'd love to meet you and visit your school and be there with you. Thank you so much.
perfect. No, thank you very much, Theodora.